Hello, everyone, and welcome to my series of interviews with subject matter experts. My name is Cyndy McDonald. I'm a UCLA instructor, and I'm very pleased to have with me two wonderful international officers today, Raluca Pasare and Daniel Anoot. They're both international officers for the University of Manchester. Welcome, Raluca, and welcome, Daniel. How are you guys?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
It's hard to believe I was just there on the University of Manchester's campus about a month ago, and you gave me such an interesting and engaging view into the university and what it has to offer. So I'm glad you're both able to join me today. So to get started, I just wanted to find out what drew you to working in admissions?
Well, I'll go first. So I started working in international education in general because when I decided to go to university, I went abroad, so I was an international student. And my experience was actually made better by working with an agent, but also with one of the officers from the university that I went to in the UK. And I think because I had such a good experience and because I started seeing a lot of the value behind, international education, studying abroad, experiencing new things, and then trying to get accustomed, I suppose, to a whole new culture, the benefits of that and the skills that I gained just by doing that kind of made me want to turn other people towards it. So I started first working in study abroad, so working with university students wanting to go abroad at different universities or from abroad coming into the UK. And then I've moved on to work within student recruitment and admissions now at the University of Manchester. So it's very much for the benefit of international education for me. That's what the pathway was.
And what country did you originally, what's your country of origin that you came to study abroad from?
I'm Romanian by nationality, and I came to university in 2010 in the UK, so a while ago. And I did my undergraduate degree, and then by doing my undergraduate degree, I actually got a scholarship to stay on and do my master's program as well. So I got a full ride really to do a master's program just because of the results that I got in my undergraduate. So I think that's brilliant. And some of the UK universities offer so many scholarship opportunities for current students to do postgraduate programs right after they finish university. It's great.
That's one of the things we noted as we were traveling throughout the UK is those opportunities for students, international students, to really take advantage of that. How about you, Daniel? What was your experience? What brought you to this?
So I have quite a varied background. I did my undergrad in foreign languages. I studied Japanese and French, and I wanted to carry on with living abroad. I actually did a study abroad as part of my undergrad, so I kind of had the experience of being more of an exchange student rather than the international student. But I think a lot of the things that exchange students go through are the same things that international students go through. So I felt I had quite a good experience, and I lived in Japan a couple of times. I actually trained to be a high school teacher. I was a high school teacher for a couple of years, and then I kind of made a bit of a sideways move. So I've always been in education, and I've lived overseas, excuse me, several times, and I have, in essence, been an international student myself. And I've also, I worked in a marketing job many years ago. So all those kind of things slotted together and kind of brought me here today. And I think a lot of those experiences I've had really helped me to relate to prospective international students. And I know I can often preempt a lot of the questions they're going to have before they even ask them, because I've had those experiences myself.
I think that's very valuable because you can relate. Both of you have been down that road. You can really relate to what international students are experiencing, especially, coming, as you said, Raluca, to a new culture and a new environment and learning and growing from that. So as students are exploring that opportunity and they have to apply to the university, and in the UK, they have to go through the UCAS system, what are the universities looking for in the personal statement? What do you want to see and what do you not want to see?
So I think when it comes to personal statements, one of the key points, I suppose, in terms of what universities expect to see is the interest in the subject and the student's ability to study that subject, so their academic ability. In the UK, it's very much about the course rather than the university. Through UCAS, especially if you're a student or a counselor and you've gone through the UCAS portal or you've just looked at some of their guides, you see that within when you make the choices for universities, you choose the program rather than the university. Obviously, each university is different, the campuses are different, they all have their own personalities as well. But when you're making your choices, it's important to focus on what the subject that you want to study is, rather than, you know, I really love the campus or I really love the city. Those are important. Of course, you're going to live there for like 3 or 4 years as a student, but it's about the course rather than the university. So I think in the personal statement, it's very important to focus on why you want to study that particular track, as in, say, if you're a computer science student, why you want to do computer science. It's important to talk about what would qualify you to do that. So your academic achievements, if you've had any related experiences as well. And then you talk about your grades. So again, academic achievements, and you also need to mention what your expectations are in terms of how you're going to finish your final year of high school, and then what other qualifications you're going to take. One of the tips, I suppose, for this is UCAS, which is the portal that you're applying through, as you said, also offers a guide for students in terms of how they should be structuring their personal statement. And I think in UCAS advice, it's about 70% it's about the course, as in why you want to study it, what makes you great at it, and about 30% you can talk about some additional experiences that might recommend you to do that particular course. I would say, unlike US universities and expectations, not all of them, but I suppose most of them, for us, it's very much about the academic program and the student's academic ability rather than their extracurricular activities. So it's great. I know a lot of US students have loads and loads of extracurricular activities. Everybody does sports and they participate in clubs and societies and so on. I think in the UK, because we treat university as this is an academic program and you need to have the academic ability to do it, we tend to focus mostly on that.
That makes a lot of sense. And it does distinguish, I mean, it's very different from what the personal statements are that students, especially in the US, would write. You know, writing about your cat or, you know, the wilderness experience isn't going to be as beneficial for a university in the UK.
Yeah, it's quite different, and I think one of the things that it's important to note as well is that it's a lot shorter than what universities potentially in the US would be expecting, just because the space is very limited on UCAS, so you kind of have to be short and clear as to why you want to study a particular course. I think I remember, probably I've already told you the story as well. When I applied to universities in the UK, I also applied to universities in the US, and there's a lot of information on each university on how and what they expect your personal statement to be like, as opposed to the UK where, you know, one size fits all. So it's, I kind of used one of the personal statement that I used for a US university in the UK, and I realized, you know, I started with a quote and I talked about my dreams and my aspirations and stuff like that. And then only to realize that it was not necessary to do that whatsoever. So yeah, I think with the UK, it's important that you focus on the course. And I think something that's important to mention is all of your university choices see the exact same personal statement. So it's why you need to focus on the course rather than anything else, because if you start talking about, you know, the campus at University of Manchester, then if another university sees that, then they're going to think you don't know what you want to do, or you're already set, and then what's the point in them engaging too much with you. So I'd say, yeah, definitely focus on the course. We all see it, so it's important to stick to that.
Thank you. So another part of the UCAS application we were speaking about when we met was the predicted grades for students, and counselors put that in as part of their counselor reference. So what approach should counselors take when they're asked to put in predicted grades for students?
Okay, so I'm fully aware, and I will use my one of my American English phrases now. I'm aware that predicted grades is not a thing in the US. So that's why I totally understand. We totally understand that a number of counsellors might have hesitation about what to put in there. The thing I'd say first and foremost, don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. We need you to put the grades in because our admissions officers, it's how things work in the UK. If a student doesn't have predicted grades entered, unfortunately, for the most part, that would be doing the student a disservice. Because the UK system is more focused than it is in the US, because the student won't be going through a year of gen ed, we do need to have a really good idea on paper of what it looks like. We are asking counsellors to make a judgment call, but it's not binding, I will add that. We are asking them to make a judgment call, essentially, just on whether you think the student has the potential to succeed in that program. So we would ask you, let's use the scenario of 3 APs. We would ask you to put down on your part of the form that you think the student is going to get 2 4s and a 5, for example. Whereas if a student in your mind was going to get 3 3s, they might not be the right fit for the university. So we really need to just be able to kind of get a bit like a litmus test, just sort of, is the student a strong student? What I really would emphasise is that that's never going to come back on the counsellor. No university UK is ever going to come knocking on a counsellor's door and say, hey, you put down 4 4 5 and this student got 3 3 3. What were you thinking? There's never going to be any issue on the part of the counsellor. But at the same time, I would say if you think the student is a 3 3 3 student, don't put down 4 4 5 just because you think they're going to get into better schools. You're doing them a favour. That would almost, in a sense, I guess, kind of be setting them up to fail. But yeah, we really just need to know those in order to be able to make a judgment as to whether the student is strong enough to go onto a particular programme. I don't know if you have anything to add, Raluca, but I think that was fairly, sum things up.
Absolutely agreed. It is a prediction. It's non-binding. It does help us understand whether we are able to make an offer to the student or not. Same as Daniel said, if there's a particular student that you think, oh, this is an excellent student, then absolutely predict the, according to our entry requirements. If you think potentially they should aim higher or they should aim lower, then absolutely just do that. And I think because I know it's such a it's a consultation really with the student, then you can probably get a better feel from the student as well, because they might have not done so great during their maths, pre-testing or in their module in high school, but they think, yeah, I'm definitely going to score what I need in AP exam. So then, yeah, that's perfectly fine.
So it sounds like the practice, sometimes we as counselors tend to be more on the conservative side. So if I think a student's going to get a 4, I'd write a 3, and just to be on the safe side. And what you're telling me is don't be on the safe side. Do what you expect, and that will be more realistic and better for the student and for you in your evaluation process.
Yeah, I mean, when you're making those assessments, and I might also add that a lot of counsellors might choose to go and speak to the subject teacher as well. So you as the counsellor will have a really good overview of how the student is, but you might not know in a lot of detail how they perform in Spanish, for example. So, by all means, go and chat to the Spanish teacher and say, hey, how do you think the student will be? Yeah, when you or the teacher are making those predictions, think about the student on a good day. If they get out of bed on the right side and they've revised properly for their test, if you think they probably will get a 5 on a good day, put 5, don't put 4, just to be on the safe side, because like we've both said, there is no comeback on the part of the counsellor or the teacher. So yeah, be optimistic.
Well, and I think that's really good advice, to go talk to the subject matter teachers and get that perspective. And then you can also look at the history of your school, because there'll be a pattern or a trend. You'll be able to see the data that says 98% of our students get 4s or 5s on this course. So that gives you some assurance that, you know, this class will be able to perform at the same level. So if they're in this AP Spanish class, that they will be able to, you know, score at the whatever level the students have been scoring. So
exactly. And I think we would say, please, please, please do put down some predicted scores, whoever you are as a counsellor, whichever student you work with, whichever kind of school you're at, whatever. If the student is applying to the UK, please, please, please do enter predicted grades, because some applicants at some universities, you know, I'm just generalizing here massively. If you think about how many applications certain universities receive for certain programs, if there aren't any predicted grades entered there, the admissions officers may not have the time to reach out and say to the counsellor, you know, what do you think the predicted scores are? If an admissions office is particularly busy at certain times of the year, that may go against the student, and they may have no alternative but to reject the student's application because the predicted grades aren't there. In an ideal scenario, they'd have lots and lots of extra time to do all this follow-up, but it's not always possible, even though we'd love to be able to do that. So yeah, some students who don't have predicted grades may get rejected just on the basis of no predicted grades on the form.
And that's the last thing we want to do as counselors. We don't want to disadvantage students by not putting some information in either. So I think that's, you know, so then on that same note, what tips do you have for writing the personal reference? So counselors, and then, you know, a teacher or other people, you know, what should the counselors be doing, and what should we be telling teachers and others that are writing references?
I think one of the key points when you're writing that reference for the student is to emphasize their academic ability, similar to their personal statement as well. So we care about their academic ability, their progress throughout high school. You know, maybe they've been getting better and better and better. Maybe they're shining in particular subjects. Maybe they've participated in some academic competitions or things like that. And then again, it comes back to the prediction of grades, because if you've got a student who's doing great, they're improving, then you would want to put them at an advantage throughout the application process to say, we think they're going to score higher, because obviously they're going higher and higher and higher. One of the things I would say, coming back a little bit to predicted grades, but also talking about the way to write this statement, this reference for the student, is if you're not sure as a counselor what you should be doing, definitely reach out to the international officers or the admissions team. Really, all universities in the UK have them, and we're friendly, and we're here to support the whole process. And I think if you're not entirely sure, if you think I don't know what to write in there, I don't understand not just what the prediction is, but also sometimes when we ask for predicted grades, it's not only that we expect to see in the reference, I think, you know, I know they're doing a maths AP and I think they're going to get 5 in that maths AP. They might be planning to take another 5 APs that we have no idea about. So definitely include those in there as well. So it's predicted tests and scores that's important to have within that reference, and to speak as much as possible to the students' academic ability rather than their personal traits, if you want, their profile. So UK universities tend to look at academic ability rather than an overall profile for a student. I hope that makes sense, really. So when speaking to a student's ability to study a course, there's nothing that recommends them better than you saying that, you know, they've been improving, their grades are getting better and better, they have a particular interest in that area or this other area, which recommends them for the course that they've chosen. So, and it's the same with the reference as it is with the personal statement. We all see it. So focus it on the course, not the university.
I bet. So, and find so many, like I worked in a public high school here in Central California, and my student load was 500. So knowing the academic capabilities of a student would have been very challenging. So would I have a teacher do that instead? Or is you know, as a counselor, sometimes I don't have all that information that can really give you that type of insight. So what do you recommend in that case?
I would say absolutely no problem to use a teacher reference. Actually, on UCAS, if you look at the reference that says it's sort of almost expected to be from a teacher rather than a counselor. When I did my application for the UK, it was actually my English teacher who wrote my reference. So absolutely, if you've got a student who's definitely aiming for a very particular subject and their teacher, their tutor's happy to talk about their progress and their academic ability, then absolutely you can use a teacher, or you can yourself write the reference. One of the things I would say, especially if you are a counselor that's working in quite a large school, or you've got loads and loads of students that you're dealing with, it might be worth the school becoming a UCAS center. It doesn't cost anything, and it also allows you, the counselor, to keep an eye on your students' applications, when their references have come in, when they should have filled out their personal statements, if they've received a reply from the universities, the deadlines to get back to the universities, or if they've been asked to supply more documents. You can keep on top of that. And even if you're not the one necessarily supplying that reference, you can always, friendly nudge to the teacher that's doing it to just tell them, look, there's a deadline, we need you to put that in. And it just makes it a little bit easier, I suppose, to just keep track of what's going on. Obviously, if you've only got one or two students applying to the UK, then as long as you're aware of the deadlines, or you're in contact with the officers, with the admissions officers as well, then you're perfectly fine. You don't need to sign up to be a UCAS center. But if you're dealing with a few students and you also have, their USA university deadlines to keep in mind as well, UCAS does it in a very centralized way. So it might be easier being a center and just looking at the portal and knowing exactly where your students are at with things. Yeah.
Good. That's good advice. So you mentioned being able to be in touch with the officers and, developing that relationship so that they can come to you and ask. So how would someone get a hold of each one of you, or either of you? How can somebody reach you if they have questions?
I think with all of us, really, as universities, we all have either inquiry forms on our website. We all tend to list under each. If you have country pages on the website, you'll probably definitely find the officers listed on there. If not, then you'll find them under the international office. We all have generic email addresses. Obviously, at the moment, because we're all kind of working from home, we tend to encourage people not to call in the office. But obviously, if you reach out to for Manchester, it's international@manchester.ac.uk. If you reach out to that, then that particular inquiry definitely gets allocated to the right person. So we all kind of have allocated countries that we deal with, or regions as well. So we're specialized and understand better the qualifications in that. Daniel and myself both work for the US, and we understand what the qualifications are. We're also very happy to do one-to-one chats, whether it's with yourselves and the student, whether it's a parent wants to get involved as well. We're very happy to kind of, just like this, jump on a Zoom call and have a friendly conversation. It starts with reaching out to us. We do a few information emails that go out to students. However, if we've never met or you've never put your details in our system, then it's harder to reach out. So definitely email. We're very quick to get back to you with any questions. And then if we don't know the answer, then at least we know who to ask. So that always helps.
That does help. That helps a lot. Well, you have a beautiful background behind you, Raluca. Tell us a little bit about the University of Manchester. We had a great visit tour there, very impressed with the university and the city. It had a lot of personal meaning for me because my family actually came from that area a few years ago. So tell us a little bit more about the university.
Okay, I'm going to deal with that one.
Daniel needs to jump in on that because he's been here for how long, Daniel?
I've worked at the university for 5 years now, and I've lived in the city of Manchester itself for almost years. So the University of Manchester is the second largest university in the UK. We have just over 40,000 students. Around 10,000 of our students come from outside of Europe. So we're a very, very international university. We have a healthy proportion of EU students as well. So essentially, I'd say 1 in every 3 students on campus comes from outside of the UK. We have about 160 nationalities represented on campus. In any given year, when you factor in study abroad and exchange students from the US, through bachelor's, master's, PhD, we probably have about 300 to 400 American students on campus every year. So it's a healthy community of American students, a good number. But percentage-wise, into that 40-odd thousand students, it's a very small percentage, so you will really get an international experience. What I'd always say is there is a network of American students around. If you ever feel homesick, you want someone to celebrate Thanksgiving with, there will be Americans around about the place, but you will get to mix with students from every corner of the world, in addition to people from back home. We do run a North America student welcome reception every fall. We invite all incoming American and Canadian students to come together. That's a great way of making some new friends, making some networks. We had a lady that came to Manchester way back in 1985, just for one semester of study abroad. She loved her time at Manchester so much. Over 30 years later, she still funds that welcome reception for us. Wow. And we will link her in by video so she can say hi to all the new incoming students. In terms of the programs that Manchester offers, it's probably easier to tell you what we don't offer rather than what we do, because we're a very broad, very comprehensive university. So with a few exceptions, we have pretty much every program apart from fine art, journalism, communication, and physical therapy. Apart from that, we have pretty much everything else. So we have a very large College of Humanities. We teach all the main disciplines of engineering, and then we teach biological sciences and everything else in between. A couple of exciting things to point out. Manchester is the birthplace of computing. So the first ever stored program computer in the world was built on the University of Manchester's campus. Manchester is also the birthplace of modern physics. So the atom was split for the very first time on the University of Manchester's campus. The building that Raluca and I both work in is actually the Rutherford building. It's named after Ernest Rutherford. He split the atom in our building. What else can I tell you? Those of you who might have seen Sherlock, or what was the other program, Raluca, that he was in?
Oh, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, if you're a Sherlock or a Doctor Strange fan, Benedict Cumberbatch studied at the University of Manchester. Benedict Cumberbatch actually played Alan Turing in a movie called The Imitation Game, and a lot of the movie takes place in Manchester, so it's all nicely tied together. And then just a little bit about the city of Manchester, if you're not familiar with it. Manchester is the second biggest city in the UK. It has everything that you'd expect from a big city. It's very well connected in terms of transportation. We have wonderful museums, theatres, really, really exciting place to live and to be a student. A very compact city, even though it's large. You can walk from the centre of campus downtown in about 10 or 15 minutes. You can walk from one side of the city to the other in less than 30 minutes. But we are much smaller than London. So for me personally, I lived in London for about 18 months. I've now lived in Manchester for 10 years. I think that kind of tells its own story about the livability of the two cities. People are very, very friendly in Manchester. It's also much cheaper to live in Manchester than it would be to live in London. I know most people, when they think of the UK, they will automatically think of London. Even though we're a small country, it's quite, the population density is not super high, but it's fairly high. So there are lots of cities in the UK outside of London. Manchester also has the biggest airport outside of the London area. So you can fly direct to about 10 different cities in the US from Manchester. Once you're in Manchester, the airport's only about a 15-minute drive or train ride from the university. So it's very, very easy to get around. And then I think the other great things about Manchester are just the physical location. So London is only 2 hours away. Liverpool's 30 minutes away. Edinburgh's about 2.5 hours away. So being right in the middle of the country, it means you can get around very easily. If you ever want a bit of a break from the big city, the nice thing also is that you can escape to a national park called the Peak District. That's only 25 minutes by train from Manchester. So you can be 1 minute in the middle of a big city and then the next minute surrounded by hills and trees and lakes and all that kind of thing. So you really do have the best of both worlds. Yeah, that's probably it. I don't know if Raluca wants to add anything else. I know she hasn't lived in Manchester for as long as I have, but I know that she's enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. As a newcomer, it's probably the same as our new students who are thinking about joining us. I think I found a few things that I'm quite happy about. One of the things that Daniel actually taught me, and I think it's on our prospectus as well, I think we're the birthplace of vegetarianism. Manchester is not the university, but the city.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So that's made me very happy. One of the things I did notice, and I would say it's definitely Manchester is a city of students and young professionals more so than anything else, because it is the second largest city in the UK, and there's loads and loads of industries here, whether you're looking towards services, whether you're looking towards communications, banking, that sort of thing. And then you also have the industrial side of things in Manchester as well, and in the towns really nearby. But I think there's a large concentration of universities within the area of Manchester or close by towns, which makes Manchester quite a young city in spite of it being around for very many years. And I think for students and for people who are considering, building a career, even potentially staying within the UK, it's the ideal place to be. The cost of living's relatively low compared to other sides of the UK, and then you have all these amazing opportunities. I think for me, one of the things that makes me the happiest is the large number of hipster things to do and places to go in Manchester. There's always a new type of pub or restaurant that opens up that does something interesting. There's always a new shop you can go into and do or have an experience as part of things like that. We do a lot of what are they called, the rooms, the escape rooms. There's all sorts of things that you can experience here, and yes, it's quite small compared to US sizes when you think about cities, but it's so concentrated. Like the number of activities per square mile is incredible. So you definitely can't get bored here. One of the things I did want to mention about the university is accommodation. I know a lot of students are considering what arrangements they need to make when they move to university. So we have on-campus accommodation, and as a university, we're able to guarantee accommodation to all of our international students in their first year, and then they can stay longer if they want to afterwards. Most of the students tend to kind of group up, make their friends, and move somewhere else. There's loads of accommodation around Manchester, but if they choose to stay within the university residences, they can definitely do that. So I think that's something that not a lot of UK universities can offer students, and it's important to kind of mention it.
No, that's very true, and that's very helpful to know, especially for counselors who are working with students in other countries, looking at students coming there as international, knowing about the housing and the city and just the whole environment and all the different things that the university offers. It's very exciting. So
yeah, just to add in while I think of it, the University of Manchester, and indeed virtually every UK university, is registered with FAFSA. So if students are going to take out federal loans, they can bring those to the UK with them.
Good point.
Yeah, definitely. And also, just in general, Raluca and I both spend a lot of time in the US, in addition to being home in the UK. And I definitely, it varies regionally, of course, but in general, there is this misconception that studying abroad is bound to be expensive. But in general, the cost of living in the UK is cheaper than it is in the US. And tuition is sometimes cheaper, if not comparable. So, you are probably going to spend less money to get your bachelor's in England than you might in the US, particularly because a bachelor's degree in England is 1 year shorter. It's only 3 years. So that's 1 year less of tuition. And as I like to put it, 1 year quicker into the world of work as well. A master's program in England only takes 1 year. So in the 4 years it would take you in a US university to get your bachelor's, you could actually get your bachelor's and your master's. And that saves you 2 years compared with the US system.
Yes, and that's a very good point. And the other thing too is that students are able to start right in on their major, their subject they're interested in. They don't have to go through all the general education requirements that you often do here in the US. So that's very attractive to a lot of students. Well, thank you both. Thank you for your time. And it's been lovely talking to you and learning more about the university and the whole UCAS, and having those tips and advice for counselors is just invaluable. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I look forward to speaking to you both again in the future.
Thank you very much for having us, and definitely please get in touch with us directly through our website or through our email addresses. Happy to answer any questions, whether it's from yourself or any of your colleagues as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.